I used to think that it was a grain of sand that got into an oyster um, that the oyster grew a pearl around. But I learnt just yesterday that it's not actually a grain of sand. It's actually a really, really tiny little small parasite that kind of bores into the shell of the oyster or the mussel or whatever the pearl is growing in. And it bores through the shell, and then as a defense mechanism, the oyster covers over that little parasite with like a mantle. And if you come over and look at the blog post, you can actually see a picture of an oyster and the mantle. And the mantle comes over it, and the oyster triggers this secretion to form called nacre, which is NACRE. I'm not sure whether I pronounced that right. And it secretes over the top of the parasite and starts to build layer upon layer upon layer upon layer around the little parasite. And that is what a pearl is. It's been formed basically as a self defense mechanism over an intruder. And something so small, but the oyster or the mussel or whatever um, forms and creates layers around it. And out of that seemingly awful parasite that wants to kill the oyster, something of extreme beauty is formed. I remember um, talking to someone who as a child had been sexually abused, and I know that quite a few people who read my content and who watch the videos, listen to the podcasts, often many of them will have had a background of abuse, whether it be sexual or physical, emotional. But this particular person had been abused as a child, and as such, like a parasite had crept into their childhood mind and taken up residence. Then there was someone else that I was supporting, and they had an intellectual disability, and they had been used for somebody else's pleasure, if you could call it that. Um, but another soul, another parasite. And I can go on and on and on with stories of people who have had parasites enter their soul, and nothing has been done to, as such, smother that or suffocate that parasite with truth and love. Jesus describes children as little ones, ones that don't have those self defense mechanisms built up yet that we as adults supposedly do. And we as adults are called to protect the little ones, to watch out for parasites, to eliminate parasites. But I've met too many adults, well, adult little ones, okay? They may be adults, but they've still got little ones that have got parasites in them. And whether it's by evil intention of somebody or it's just by simply living in a broken world, parasites have found a home. Um, I remember when I was farming, I was brought up on a sheep farm, and my father and I would get the sheep in and we would regularly drench them, which pour some medicine down their throats, and off they'd go. And this medicine was there to go into the lungs or into the ingestions and to kill any parasites that had made their way into the body of the sheep. And because we knew that if we didn't, the sheep would just start to lose life and strength as the parasite took over the sheep. You know, and I've had some parasites enter my soul at times, all right? Little grievances, big grievances, hurts, cuts, scars, abuses. And with every one of these, I have to make a choice. And the choice is this: do I feed them or do I starve them? Do I continue to feed them with lies and to feed them with, um, yes, you are right, blah, 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 terrible, terrible, blah, blah, blah. Because they really like that. They like to feed on that. Or do I suffocate them with truth and love? And actually, it takes a bit more effort to suffocate something like that with truth and love. But as I'm doing that, I build up layers of truth that I'm loved, I'm held, I'm known. And just like the pearl, and if you come over to the blog, you'll see a picture of what a pearl looks like inside, where it's just got millions and millions of layers of this substance. And or do I use that incident as a kind of a building block to build a beautiful pearl that has worth and value? I've written a poem, it's called Under the Mantle. And the mantle I'm referring to is like a mantle, is like a cloak. All right. So it's under the mantle. Sweep over it with your mantle. Envelop it with your love. Don't let it burrow in. Take from me your hope. Make something good out of its hideous task. Layer the little worm. Suffocate with pearly glass. Layers of love, layers of self-respect, layers of truth. Overlay plates of pearl. Rounded I will see. Wisdom pearls created be. Not the hard, sharp angles of a bitter soul, but smooth, fine, and parasitic free. I surrendered to the work of the mantle of a man who walked this parasitic place, pearls of wisdom in his hand. Come cover over my every hurt, transform them into something good, pearls of beauty gifts for thee, all contained under Shelley hood. One day I will present my pearls, beauty on you to adorn, wedding gown, wedding feast, silent love, kisses oh so sweet. If you found this helpful or interesting or challenging, or you got questions, please email me. It's barry@turningthepage.co.nz. I love to hear comments. I love to receive emails from people who watch or listen, who read. So please email me. And until next time, because I'm going to be doing a series about pearls, um, I'd like you to think about these questions. Can you name a parasite that has been turned into a pearl? Okay, something in your life which has been really, yeah, but it's actually been a building block for something really good. Another question is, what layers of truth do you need to keep having to reapply so as the pearl can grow? E.g., I'm loved, I'm held, I'm known. And the third question is, have you seen pearls in others? How have they been formed? Okay, thanks. Bye.